Hello, everyone. Welcome to the episode 8 of SoLeadSaturday. The guest we have today, Ankit Rathi, he did not take any prior education in AI or ML, but he started implementing in his organization, and that's how he learned it by himself. So let's hear from him his career journey. How did he find his passion, and what steps did he take and manage to be one of the leaders in the areas he is passionate about? So thank you, Ankit, for agreeing on the time and being available on Saturday evening, your time. So really appreciate the consideration.
Oh, my pleasure, Vaishali. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. And it's like, yeah, hello everyone. My name is Ankit Rathi, and I started my career in 2005 as a database developer. I worked on various DBs, databases, data warehouses, BI applications over the period of time. And basically, it's like I moved to machine learning or AI area in 2013. So basically, it's like in 2012, I read an article in Harvard Business Review by DJ Patil, which was basically about data scientist was going to be job of the century or sexiest job of the century. And I was working as a data architect, and I was playing with data day in day out. And I thought, what is this data scientist, which basically I don't know anything about. I was also working on data mining that time. So then I started digging, and basically I attended Andrew Ng's machine learning course. It was just launched by then on Coursera, first course of Coursera basically.
Mhm.
And over the period of time, I got to know about Kaggle as well. I registered there and started practicing Titanic and housing prices prediction
Mhm.
that time only. Um, I didn't have the courage to participate in the live competition that time. But over the period of time, I did that as well. It's like um, um, by this, I built the capacity and I started identifying use cases within my organization. And
Mhm.
I was fortunate enough that time to basically solve a couple of business problems using machine learning, and that's how I moved to machine learning.
Okay. So actually already you shown how did you find actually your passion, and how did you get diverted into this AI and ML space. So just wanted to ask you, like, when I saw your profile, it was like, you do like public speaking as well. You are a professional, you work in the AI and ML as a data architect, and you're author as well actually. So you
Yeah.
started blogging, and then you wrote two books, and one of them is like a bestseller according to you. So what did you enjoy the most, like out of these different roles, and why?
Okay. So I like because I've been a software professional, so mostly I like building AI ML applications based on the business problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I like solving challenges, and because it's not a typical IT project, it is AI and ML, so
Mm-hmm.
half research, half project kind of thing. So it's like first we do a kind of feasibility analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So I like these kind of challenges where things can go either way, and we are really adding value to the business.
Mm-hmm.
Second, I like to speak about it. Yeah, it's like whatever I've learned or whatever I've it's like experienced, I would like to share it with an audience, and if they can find it helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like being an author, actually I started blogging in 2007, and the reason was that it was very difficult to keep a track after
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 years what you have done. So I thought, it's like if I blog and it was a kind of personal notes to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was working as a database developer, so whatever queries I've written, it's like, so I used to write about that in the my blog post, and
Mm-hmm.
it was basically for my revision only.
Mm-hmm.
uh, so that means like next time I am facing similar kind of problems, so I can refer my own blog post.
Mm-hmm.
So I started like that, and those posts were it's like I was only able to comprehend what I was writing that time. But
Yeah.
over the period of time, I built that skill that yeah, okay, it's like if I need to write it in a way that uh, a reader can understand it in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I started blogging, and eventually I wrote the book. But again, yeah, it's like blogging and being an author is it's a um, it's a hard work actually. It's I don't enjoy it much. It's like it's the on the third spot I would say because
Mm-hmm.
it's very tedious actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's like reaching out to the audience, and audience has to like it what you write or what you come up
Yeah,
with. And when you look into the AI and ML books, actually right now there are like a saturated market. You find like lots of books available, and then it's like
yeah, yeah,
what unique you can come up with when it comes to the writing. So that's good
right.
actually. So you enjoy more being on practical usage of AI and ML side. So that's great. And what I can get out of it is more or like once you find your interest, it is more or like being proactive and putting hard work like behind that. And um, learning is more important, like keeping yourself active and reaching out to the people, learning in all the ways possible you can learn the things. So that's good to know.
Yes.
That is definitely something like students will admire for. The next question is, what are the various areas where AI, artificial intelligence, can be used?
Okay. So basically, it's like the areas where I have used mostly revolved around optimizing the business operations,
Mm-hmm.
uh, where basically there are operators
Mm-hmm.
which are using it's like completing certain operations, and
Mm-hmm.
somehow because most of the things are being done these days on machines, so we have some historical data as well. So
Mm-hmm.
if based on the data that is being collected, if we can optimize that operation, earlier the operator was taking 15
Mm-hmm.
minutes, and now it's like with the uh, uh, data services that we make available to him, if he is able to complete it in 5 minutes or 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a kind of optimizing the operation. So most of the things we have done around that.
Mm-hmm.
Second is improving the decisions for the business leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier means like uh, over the period of time you have built certain experience what decision to take in what scenario.
Mm-hmm.
But means like because we now have the data as well to validate our decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So means like based on the historical decision making on certain types of data elements, if we can give some kind of recommendation to the business leader, and even he can validate those decisions, so it would be good. So it's like second kind of use case is that.
Mm-hmm.
Third is infusing the intelligence in the products. So it's like every business have certain solutions or products,
Mm-hmm.
or they are already working. And if we can infuse some intelligence into it, maybe uh, it is more specialized to a customer, or
Mm-hmm.
more personalized experience to the customer in terms of a product. So it's like those kind of solution building solution in the product or infusing intelligence. And the fourth type is basically building the data products.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Google Maps is there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like if we whatever data we have in our business, if we can convert it into a kind of data product which can be beneficial for our customers,
Mm-hmm.
or like retail users. So that is the fourth use case. These
Okay.
are the areas where basically I have
Mm-hmm.
applied artificial intelligence.
So the way I understood is like divided into the four parts, which is like optimizing the business processes, decision making, and then infusing the intelligence, and then coming up with the data product, like interacting with the data product. Any specific use case that you would like to share, like any experience you had while learning by yourself, or how these phases are interlinked, like when we talk about optimizing the business processes, any technologies that you use to optimize those business processes. When it comes to the decision making, how much collective decision is required, how much is the involvement from the business technology, and what is the collaborative work that you come together when it comes to the decision making, how you work collaboratively and make the decision. So that kind of scenario or something.
Okay. So generally, how we do it is it's like mostly we um, collaborate with the business
Mm-hmm.
so that basically domain experience is also required. But the problem is that the domain expert doesn't know data science and data scientist doesn't know domain. So basically, first we do a kind of workshop with the domain experts or business leaders and try to understand their area of operations and
Mm-hmm.
how they are doing their end-to-end operation, and then basically means like educating them a bit about data science or artificial intelligence and
Mm-hmm.
understanding their processes as well. And
Mm-hmm.
then in those workshops we are able to identify a few AI opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and then we do a kind of feasibility analysis. It's
Mm-hmm.
like which is more doable than the other and which can have a better ROI over the period of
Mm-hmm.
time, and then prioritizing it accordingly. So sometimes it happens that means like it is doable but it's not feasible as such, or maybe it is not. It's like the cost of implementation would be more than the means like the benefit that we get from that solution. So based on that, we filter the opportunities and prioritize them, and then basically we start working on the proof of concept. Now,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a typical IT project, so first we need to prove that means like the concept works. So we on a low scale,
Mm-hmm.
um, one data scientist, one data engineer in collaborative approach collect the data,
Mm-hmm.
build a means like clean the data in a minimal means like it's not done on a huge scale, but it's like some sampling and then cleaning the data, generating some features, building model around it, and seeing is like seeing the best split and how we can validate the training that we have done on the validation data and how it is performing,
Mm-hmm.
and proving to the business that it is doable, means like it can be done. Once the POC is complete, then we make presentation to the business owners,
Mm-hmm.
and that this is what we have done, and it's like if it looks fine from
Mm-hmm.
all angles. And once that is done, then we get into the project phase.
Yeah.
And mostly we have a baseline developed by then. It's just
Mm-hmm.
that the engineering and refining the models happens. Again, we start from scratch then, but the full team is involved by then there will be a business analyst as well who will be collecting the
Mm-hmm.
requirements formally.
Mm-hmm.
uh, then data engineering guy would be collecting the data, building the pipelines, fetching all the data,
Mm-hmm.
helping us cleaning it and building features, and then building the models and validating them, hosting them, and deploying in production. So it's like the whole life cycle goes with different collaboration, like working with cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, test engineer. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how
Yeah.
once it is
Every
in
role plays
deployed
the
in production,
important
then
role. Yeah. So you need
yeah,
like a complete system to make it possible. So one
yeah.
question, like quick question on this, when you said that you have to present your findings to the business owners, how easy or hard it is to explain them like the technology terms, or how do you find it, like what is your best approach, like when it comes to defining it to the business, what is happening. Do you go for more like a technological terms, or you try to make it as simple as possible, and what is that best way?
So we try to make it as simple as possible, because ultimately it's up to the business to decide whether it's like things are fine to be deployed.
Mm-hmm.
And generally it's like business has different KPIs than the matrices that we have, right? The validation matrices that we have. So generally it's like while um mean squared error or maybe confusion metrics
Mm,
are more suitable for us, but converting those things into the business KPIs and presenting it so that they can better understand it.
mhm,
So it's like we convert into their terms and present it. And sometimes it happens that there is no other way. It's like even they don't have a
mhm,
defined KPI. Then basically, it's like we educate them. It's like what is
mhm.
the confusion matrix, and in a simplistic term, and so that they can see. Okay, it's like that's how the accuracy or precision is, and what it means in business
Yeah, that
terms.
completely makes sense actually, because it's always difficult. You can't just go and say that this is the accuracy, this is the confusion matrix, true positives and false positives. Business will run away. So they will not understand anything unless until you talk them within the business language, that they're the way they are
Right.
looking into it. So yeah, that makes sense to me as well. So moving to the next question, how much percentage of your day-to-day job consists of this data governance, data ethics, and data quality? I'm sure it must be the
Okay.
most valuable phases
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, it is valuable, but actually not day to day, I would say, but
Mm-hmm,
we work on it intermittently. It's like uh, these things mature over the period of time. So
mm-hmm,
initially, when we are involved, maybe even the data governance might not be in place in the existing solution. But when we get into that, then we review these things, whether it's like some data governance around is there,
mm-hmm,
what kind of data quality procedures are there, it's like how they are maintaining data quality, and
mm-hmm,
if it's like something is to be done on those areas,
mm-hmm,
then we have it's like data ethics is basically it's like deciding ethically what is doable and what should we should refrain from doing.
mm-hmm,
So as an organization we have some guidelines which we follow. It's like
mm-hmm,
by data we can do each and everything. It's like but
mm-hmm,
not to use someone's personal data for a business gain. It's like which, so those kind of ethical guidelines we have, and I'm sure different organizations are building those guidelines. So intermittently checking these things, that means like whether we means like adhering to these guidelines or not.
mm-hmm,
And out of this means like data quality is much more
mm-hmm.
important.
Yeah.
But again, data governance is important in a sense that ultimately if we have data governance in place, then only we can ensure data quality over the
Mm-hmm,
period of time.
mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, sounds good to me actually. So the way actually when I started working in the data, lots of effort still actually I feel that it is like, on the data quality side. When it comes to finding out anything, any insights in the data, it's more important
Right.
that your data is up to date and you prepare it properly. So that I can relate as well. So moving to the next question, it is again on the basis of like AI and ML, the way we like, talk a lot more about it. So what are the differences between the AI and machine learning?
Okay. So machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. We know that means like since 1950s we are hearing the term artificial intelligence, and
Mm-hmm,
it is a very wide area. Building robots itself is artificial intelligence,
mm-hmm,
but machine learning is basically one part of it, which is basically learning from the data itself.
mm-hmm,
But if we look uh, as a human, we learn from our experiences, from data. We
mm-hmm,
are emotional creatures as well. Um, so it's like apart from learning from experiences and data, there are much more things that we are able to do, which machines means like we still need to understand how we can infuse those qualities in a machine. So
mm-hmm,
basically means like whatever a human is doing which a machine is currently not doing,
mm-hmm,
making machines capable of doing that is artificial intelligence.
mm-hmm,
And doing that using historical data, is one way of doing, which is machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference.
Yeah. So two more questions actually. Those are not in the list, but I would like to ask is like first is like basic skill set or the technology that you would look into when you look into this data field, or any specific tools you would like to recommend people to start learning. So what would be those actually?
Okay. Uh, so it's a good question actually. Because what I feel is data science or artificial intelligence is such a big field that it's a big elephant, and it's like a person who doesn't have an oversight
Mm-hmm.
may feel it's like whether the elephant, how to define that elephant. Is it a trunk? Is it a nose? Or it is a tail? So it's like, and whoever it's like is working in a particular area try to define artificial intelligence or machine learning or data science in that way. But
Mm-hmm.
again, it's a team effort. There are many things, domain is involved, because uh, we are doing it for business,
Mm-hmm.
so we need to understand the domain and the business aspects of it. Maths, it's like building the models. So
Mm-hmm.
statistics, it's like applying on data and identifying patterns
Mm-hmm.
from data is important. Um Engineering is, or computer science is important because we need to program it, we need
Mm-hmm.
to deploy the models, and also the IT things are also there. But again, because these are very vast areas, so uh, not everyone has equal capabilities in all the areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like me, I have been a software professional, so I'm much more comfortable in out of these. Means like if I would like to rank myself, then I would say that I'm more comfortable into the engineering side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and second would be the math side of it, and
Mm-hmm.
the last thing would be the business. But
Mm-hmm.
again, what I want to say is that not everybody has same command over all over those things. But again, suppose somebody knows business more than any other aspects of machine learning or data science, then he can be a business analyst for AI projects. If somebody is an engineer, he can be a data engineer. Or if somebody is a statistician, he would maybe a kind of machine learning engineer. But uh, what I would like to emphasize that because it's a team effort, and um, I would request uh, everyone to have a T-shaped skill set. T-shaped means having a decent depth to in all the fields, at least to understand end-to-end picture. It's like when we are working as a team, so the big picture should be clear in everybody's mind,
Mm-hmm.
and then niche into a particular area.
Mm-hmm.
So why that is important? Because suppose a DevOps engineer, data engineer, machine learning engineer, and business analyst are working as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, a machine learning engineer is stuck in something,
Mm-hmm.
but other teammates are not able to understand why he's taking so much time, or what kind of issue that he is struggling. And if we have that kind of view, then we can better collaborate, and we can try to figure out how to improvise. Sometimes as a machine learning engineer, if I'm stuck, the reason may be functional, so a
Mm-hmm.
business analyst will help, or
Mm-hmm.
may help. So if he also knows a bit about what a machine learning engineer does, at least
Mm-hmm.
up to some level, so he would be able to help, or maybe that whole team may be able to collaborate better.
Mm-hmm. And then when we talk a lot more about this domain knowledge, right? What would be the best approach or the way to learn the domain?
There's it's like domain knowledge is the I think most difficult part, because it comes only with experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even we'll not find any domain experience guide in the market. It's like at least for statistics we can learn, programming we can learn
Mm-hmm.
from books, and even we can try to apply on Kaggle competitions or hackathons. But domain experience come with over the period of time working with the business only. But up to some extent it can be built using like working on some domain specific competitions as well or hackathons.
Mm-hmm.
At least yeah. And
That's
when
true,
you day
actually.
to day interact with the business, then you get to know more about the domain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, actually. The way you spend time along with your experience within the organization, you understand more, actually, the domain.
Yeah.
Um, but one more question, actually, along the same line is when we are talking about the data quality, did you find any best approach to clean the data, or is it again the iterative process always, and you have to figure it out how you can achieve the best quality data?
Okay, so there are if it's like ETL, the extract, transform, and load
Mm-hmm.
kind of activities has already been happening in the industry. So
Mm-hmm.
there are data quality techniques. It's
Mm-hmm.
like correctness of the data, consistency in the data. So there are few guidelines. So generally we look, we verify, it's like whether those kind of data quality approaches are being followed right now, or we need
Mm-hmm.
to. And it's like first we check the process. It's like if
Mm-hmm.
those kind of processes are being followed, those
Mm-hmm.
kind of checks are there in within the process.
Mm-hmm.
If not there, means that they should be there. And then for the already the data that has already been stored, it's like looking for duplicacy or consistency
Mm-hmm.
or correctness in the data and cleaning it out in that way. uh, so basically checking the data quality best practices, and in the existing data, verifying whether means like data is correct or consistent in according to those guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this is the approach that.
Yeah. Next question is about, what are the different algorithm techniques you can use in AI and ML? So it is like AI and ML are interlinked, actually. So what are the different algorithms basically you use in?
Okay, so means like I started with the difficult one actually. Means like I means like, now I realize actually I was working in multinational bank, and I was working in mortgages, and
Mm-hmm.
one of my colleague was working in credit cards, and we were learning machine learning that time in back in 2013. So it's like we saw that it's like our sales team used to approach customers for buying their products and all,
Mm-hmm.
and we um, learned about market basket analysis, and then we thought, okay, we already have some customers in mortgages, we already have customers in credit card,
Mm-hmm.
and within that we have common customers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if we approach, means like if we identify some affinity between the customer attributes, um, um, the attributes of the customers which have both mortgages and the credit card both, and with similar affinity, if we approach those customers who have the affinity score equivalent to those customers, but they have only one product, so it is highly likely that they will buy another product.
Mm-hmm.
So we applying a priori algorithm, we build affinity scores, and based on that, we gave those scores to our sales team, and our sales team approached the customer, and the conversion rate was very high. It's like it
Mm-hmm.
was around 70-80%. Earlier, it was used to be 20-30% only.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it was a kind of unsupervised
Mm-hmm.
learning, but it proved very fruitful.
Mm-hmm.
In general, classification and regression task, in the POC stage, generally I start with a very basic algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like I go to random forest over the it's like after trying few things, like
Mm-hmm.
for classification, logistic regression or naive Bayes.
Mm-hmm.
For it's like regression, it's like linear regression, non-linear
Mm-hmm.
regression, then SVM and random forest. But I appreciate random forest much because it has a right balance between um, explainability and complexity. So
Mm-hmm.
as you know, it's like as we increase the model complexity, the explainability goes for a toss. It's like
Mm-hmm.
generally like neural net or deep neural net, we can't explain what how the model is making a decision. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like in simple models, we at least we have some intuition, and we can generate some feature importance and see it's like on what basis the model is making some decisions.
Mhm.
So random forest has that kind of right mix, and it is very critical at the initial stage of the product, because
Mhm.
when we are working and trying to understand what is working, what is not
Mhm.
working while building the algorithm. So it helps means like understanding those kind of things. And
Mhm.
then so building a baseline with the random forest, I feel it's quite useful. And then
Mhm.
basically we can see once we are into a deployment stage, or in a project stage where it's like POC is done and we are trying improvising the algorithm, then we can use complex algorithm and
Mhm.
compare with the baseline and then upgrade if it has better performance in terms of accuracy and all,
Mhm.
and it is robust as well. So
Mhm. Okay, yeah,
and
that is insightful actually. So it seems
yeah,
like you are more biased towards the random forest. Like it's your
yeah, I mean,
favorite
like
one.
I think everybody is means like there are so many algorithms and nobody is a master of any. Like people maybe but whoever I know means like they have some favorite algorithm, and
Mhm.
others means like they know up to a level that they can start using it.
Mhm.
So my favorite is, yeah, it's like tree based algorithm, and it is um, robust to the outliers. It
Mhm.
is, we need not to scale the data. It's like there are, it's like 10 12 benefits of using random forest, like I have once listed down.
Mhm.
I'm a bit, yeah, biased. Again, the beauty of machine learning or AI is that we can't be sure of anything.
Mhm.
It's like it's very contextual.
Yeah.
So but for very less time, it has happened that it's like we went to the neural net, and uh, many times it happened that um instead of uh, training a deep neural net, random forest was working for our data set, because deep neural net work on whether the it's like if the data is very huge, or miss like the data is highly unstructured, miss
Mhm.
like then we recommend using deep neural net. Otherwise miss like the simpler, or maybe miss like the machine learning algorithms works quite good. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
how.
Yeah.
Apart from
When,
that, I have also worked on miss like NLP techniques, natural language processing, for
Mhm.
processing the textual data, because we already have miss like most of the data is structured, but sometimes we get some attributes which are textual in nature, and then we try to generate features out of it, which can
Mhm.
help models. And then miss like recently we are working on some video analytics as well,
Mhm.
where we are doing some instance segmentation, and we are using masked RCNN. So these
Mhm.
are basically a variation or advanced
Mhm.
uh, convolutional neural network, like
Yes, yes.
on
Mhm.
top of that regional, and then masked. So like,
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's quite useful actually, the whatever information you provided. I was just saying because a lot more people talk about the random forest when it comes to the algorithms. So it's like popular algorithm and all.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, so that makes sense actually. Why is it popular? Because it gives you the insights more uh, easily compared to the other algorithms. So moving to the next question, it is along the same line. Actually, you already mentioned the deep neural networks. Actually, so the question is more or like how these neural networks, deep neural learning, is related to AI. It's already a
okay.
subset actually. So yeah. So just
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, as it's like we have already discussed. So deep learning or neural net is a subset of machine learning. So if we ignore deep learning,
Mm-hmm.
um, earlier machine learning had different kind of algorithm,
Mm-hmm.
and neural net was one of them, and which we used to say that it works like human brain, and it's like over the period of time it's like we
Mm-hmm.
build deep neural net as well. So uh, machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
which is learning from data.
Mm-hmm.
AI can be of anything. It's like learning emotions or taking actions uh,
Mm-hmm.
with or without data. AI
Mm-hmm.
is a broader concept, while machine learning has more to deal with data.
Mm-hmm.
And neural net is one form of doing it, which is taking inspiration from human brain.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
And like deep learning is more. It's like building deep neural nets. It's like having several layers,
Mm-hmm.
um, where different nodes are there, and it's like taking neural net to the next level so that it can handle volume of data,
Mm-hmm.
as well as if unstructured data is there, like textual data,
Mm-hmm.
audios, videos. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that is that makes sense to me as well. So, one more question actually. When we talk a lot more about this data modeling, right? How much is the feature engineering takes importance, like when it comes to doing the data modeling?
featuring is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Very, very important, I would say. It's like at least in the use cases that I have worked, mostly them were structured, and but again, it's like the feature engineering was even when we are using neural nets or deep neural nets, feature engineering helps a lot
Mm-hmm.
because um, one example, like suppose we are a very simple example for the beginners who may be watching this video, that if we are having uh, it's like we need to calculate or predict the housing prices,
Mm-hmm.
and we have length and width of the houses, okay, and we are passing that data. So now uh, in the realty sector, we know that means like length and width may have some effect on the prices, but it's more related with the area.
Mm-hmm.
Now a model means like a simple model will not learn the area by itself if we are passing only the length and width. A
Mm-hmm.
deep neural net may learn it or may not learn it. It's like depending on it's like how deep it is, and it will try many feature interactions, and one of them would be area, and then how much importance it might be giving to them. So when we are building the features rather than totally depending on feature interaction, then we are giving specific guidelines to the model,
Mm-hmm.
and which is functional as well. Some
Mm-hmm.
domain expertise is required to build useful features.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that yeah, features are it's like uh, less computation, less depth would be required, and model will be less confused, or it will be more specific to our problem if we provide right features to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense to me as well. Like I also feel that feature engineering is the most important phase actually. Once you are done with the data cleaning, that is something you can come up with the best model suitable. Uh, the way now, like lots of we are getting lots of platforms actually which are like automated machine learning. Do you feel that kind of roles we have in the organization, like a team structure we have right now, that will get affected because of those automated machine learning? Because sometimes it happens to me as well, like when I'm dealing with the business, they are more insecure when you are saying that you are going to automate their business processes. So it's like, are you going to steal our jobs? So sometimes it happens that people have the misconception about this automation, or they are quite insecure what is going to happen. So did you experience any kind of such thing in your thing, or how do you say this, like automating everything is going to change the jobs available in the market?
Um, we have a long way to go in that sense. I feel that
Mm-hmm.
because even if some operator is doing some complex task, and the for various reason data may not be available,
Mm-hmm.
um, or maybe it's like uh, randomness is there, or some kind of experience or specialized knowledge is required, which is not which cannot be transformed into data,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like it can't be automated. So what I'm saying is, leave alone the data scientist job, even a simple business operation, there may be certain cases where so much specialized knowledge or
Mm-hmm.
experience is required that it can't be automated using even using artificial intelligence.
Mm, yeah,
So
that's. Mm-hmm.
so basically redundant tasks obviously very redundant tasks were automated during the IT revolution,
Mm-hmm.
and some more sophisticated tasks can be automated if we have data around it. but
Mhm.
still there may be many specialized area in the business which can't be
Mhm.
automated using AI. Coming back to the auto ML part, I see it as a augmented intelligence.
Mhm.
It's basically I may be um, building some graphs and understanding the data and building my models, but I
Mhm.
can use auto ML to learn more about data in less time.
Mhm.
So auto ML can expedite the machine learning process, but
Mhm.
it will eliminate the AI engineer or ML engineer. It may happen. It's like to
Mhm.
some very usual use cases, like where suppose some uh, there is no feature engineering, much feature engineering is required. We already have data, and it is some causation is there in some features, already existing features, and it's a
Mhm.
very simple use case which a machine learning engineer would have done it maybe in 1 or 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Using auto ML, it's like it can be wholly automated. So those kind of redundant tasks where redundancy is more, which could have been done by any ML engineer,
Mhm.
because the patterns are so obvious, can be automated using auto ML.
Mhm.
But it's like in most of the business is complex. It's like the corporate environment is complex. A lot of it's like different kind of data,
Mhm.
different kind of stakeholders. So auto ML can't be applied each and everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, it can help us. Maybe as I mentioned that if I right now I am doing everything manually, I'm understanding myself, applying what is working and not.
Mhm.
um, Within my work, if I can apply at auto ML, I
Mhm.
can reach to a conclusion in a quicker way. So
Mhm.
that's how I see it.
Yeah, yeah. So it is something that is always going to help you out actually, rather than like taking it as insecurity. It is more or like making your job easier and then removing some of the redundant tasks. So that is a good takeaway from it actually. Moving towards like you are a leader. So how do you describe your leadership style?
Okay, so I would call it as a transformation leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Miss like I feel that I am not very much authoritarian. It's like mostly I take a democratic approach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would like to listen the opinion and previous experiences if my team members have it, and
Mm-hmm.
most of the time those are useful. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but again, sometimes it may happen that conflicting views are there in the team, and then basically one need to have take a um, like stand,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's like so sometimes it happens that you need to have some authority.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I would like to keep it transformational, where on the need basis it can be democratic leadership, it can be servant leadership, basically serving your team members rather than asking them to serve you,
Mm-hmm.
or authoritarian is like if a need arises to be.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So it's a good kind of a leadership style. Do any specific leader that you follow when it comes to the leadership? Like, you know, when you grow in the ladder of your professional growth, uh, what are the skill set or what are the steps you have to take to achieve that leadership? Or you always see somebody like, you know, leading in your professional growth, and you always admire that person, and you say that, okay, I want to be that kind of a person.
Okay, I admire Miss like Sundar Pichai,
Mm-hmm.
Satya Nadella. Miss like so they are leading big MNCs, and they are highly technical as well. And then Miss like they have leadership abilities.
Mm-hmm.
It's like again their leadership styles and what philosophy they follow is not uh, it's like openly in the public domain. But again, if it's like I get some opportunity, I would like to learn from these leaders. It's like how they see leadership, and what philosophy they
Mhm,
follow, and it's like what kind of approach they follow while leading the teams.
Okay, yeah. So next question is like, we already discussed a lot more, like, how you transform yourself from previous, like, the way you were working in the software engineering, then you transform yourself on the data side. So what is that one thing you would like to tell to the audience that, when it comes to learning any new technology, what should be there? Like,
Okay, it's a good question. So mostly I see people going after theory again and again, and they dig too much. Means like, so while learning that technology, I would suggest that means like learn and apply, learn and apply, and learn and apply.
hmm.
So
So it's
basically,
more
means like
like iterative. The more you try, actually, more you will learn.
so
And that
without
definitely makes sense to me
like
as
yeah
well.
without actually have means like if without learning anything I will try practical application, then I will fail. It's like most likely fail.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if we go after theory, it's like then up to a depth we can understand. Once unless we have a practical application to that depth, we can't go much deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sometimes when we say that everything is going above my head, yeah, that is because you don't have practical experience of whatever you have learned till now. So
Yep.
once I have learned something, if I have applied, then I can go to the next level. Yes.
Yes. So it depends particularly on the individual as well, actually, how he looks into his job and how he finds the
Right.
opportunity. So
Mhm.
that definitely a good advice to any person, actually. Moving towards the next question is about any tips or advice you would like to give to the people who are trying to get into this AI or ML, or the people who are trying to switch their profile in the profession they are in, or trying to grow in this area.
I would say that build your own roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, it's like I have built a framework for the people who want to get into data science or artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
I've written it in my blogs as well,
Mm-hmm.
and I've written a book about it as well. I will cover that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I would like to briefly cover that right now, so that people can get the idea about the
Mm-hmm.
framework. So it's a four-step framework where it's like it has four steps: navigate, build, launch, and excel. So
Mm-hmm.
navigate is basically there are so many things in artificial intelligence or machine learning right now that whoever is entering gets overwhelmed by the theory and the applications that are there, and um, people get listless, means like how to approach and how to
Mm-hmm.
learn and which area to focus and all. So the first step is to navigate. Navigate is basically on a high level looking what is around, means like what is artificial intelligence, how
Mm-hmm.
it is different from deep learning, how it is different from machine learning, what is data science, data mining, business intelligence. So understanding them in a practical way means like what's the difference, where to use what, and basically means like understanding these things in a project, what kind of roles are there, who does what. So what are the steps, end-to-end steps for machine learning model? So navigating all these things and understanding these things. What is AI explainability? What is AI ethics? Why those things are important? What is data engineering? What is data
Mm-hmm.
science? So it's like uh, these are not the conceptual questions, or maybe it's like this. These are more of a navigational stuff, which basically help us understand the field in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Once we have that kind of view, then we can make better decision. Okay, what is there and where I should focus based on my abilities, or
Mm-hmm.
which I can relate to. The second step is build. Build is basically building our skill set.
Mm-hmm.
So once we have understood the overall picture, then we have focused. Okay, I want to be a data engineer. I want to be a data scientist. I want to be a DevOps engineer. I want to be a cloud engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Then basically building skills. Like in skills, basically we have three things: uh, concepts,
Mm-hmm.
processes, and tools. So learning the concepts of that field, like if you are in in data science, learn data science
Mhm.
concepts. If you are a data engineering, then learn data engineering concepts.
Mhm.
What is the process followed there, and what are kind of tools are used, which tool is used where, and just learning about those tools,
Mhm.
maybe watching relevant YouTube videos, or maybe
Mhm.
reading blogs, books. Once we have done that, then the launch, the third uh, phase of the framework is the launch. Now I know about the field, I have built some skill set. Now how to launch myself in the market.
Mhm.
Launching, then basically it's all about building your portfolio. It's
Mhm.
like doing some public projects, taking part in
Mhm.
hackathons, writing blogs, launching YouTube 10 channels for interviewing like-minded professionals, or maybe sharing your knowledge. So these launching yourself in the market, and building effective network, like
Mhm.
on LinkedIn,
Yep.
looking for job search, preparing for interviews and cracking interviews. So that all comes in the launch phase.
Mhm.
The last phase is the excel phase, which is basically now I know about the field, I have chosen my area of work, I have built my skill set, and even I got the job, and
Mhm.
I have launched myself in the market. Now, again, because AI and machine learning field is constantly evolving,
Mhm.
so uh, we need to be on our toes in our area to be relevant in the market.
Mhm.
So how to excel? So basically, yeah, it's like keeping a tab of what's going on in my field, and what kind of
Mhm.
latest technologies are being used and for what,
Mhm.
and it's like what kind of research is being done, what kind of frameworks are coming in the market, and
Mhm. Yeah.
learning
That's.
new framework by theory and doing some kind of practical around it in your free time. So generally I suggest people that they in their, even in their day to day job as a technologist,
Mhm.
spend 20-30% of the time, either you uh, it's like devote it extra or within the job,
Mhm.
to keep yourself upgrading, for it's like
Mhm.
to remain relevant in the
Yeah.
uh, your field.
Yeah. So this is definitely a very good advice, actually, and thank you so much for it, explaining your framework. And that is something definitely goes through when you persons tries to, like, learn new technology and get into any that kind of a profession. So
Yeah.
these are really very important phases, I felt. And then um, I guess the students actually who are pursuing their education, they will understand that what is the importance of all these phases and how they have to divert their career into it. So thank you so much for it. And to end up this podcast, actually, I would just like to ask you, like, I know that you are author, so your books are already there, but any courses and the books that you would like to recommend to the audience?
Yeah. So I started because when I started, R was more, it's like mature than Python.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with R, and I found Machine Learning with R by Brett Lenz.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, uh, it was a very good book.
Mm-hmm.
It was simple,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to quickly grasp it and start my work.
Mm-hmm.
Then the second book I would recommend is Python Machine Learning by Sebastian Rastra.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a good book. You start from scratch and build up to some level.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hands-on Machine Learning by Orlean Geron.
Mm-hmm.
So it's second edition is out. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's on TensorFlow 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I am still going through it. It's like I completed 2 years back the first edition. It's very
Mm-hmm.
useful.
Hello.
Huge amount of time to basically learn the concept and build the skill set. And last but not the least, I would uh, like to promote my book, DSAI Self Starter Handbook.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book which is different from other books, because mostly I wrote it because people used to ask me how to get into artificial intelligence, data
Mm-hmm.
science, and they used to have some follow up questions as well. So I jotted down frequently asked questions and build a
Mhm.
framework around it, building your own roadmap in artificial intelligence. And I wrote the book because identified that means like most of the books in artificial intelligence or machine learning were about algorithm and means like the data science stuff, not how to get into data science or artificial
Mm.
intelligence, which requires a different approach. Obviously, you need to know the concepts, processes, and tools, but there are many things that you need to do apart from that as well as
Mhm.
a professional. So I wrote that book keeping that in mind, and it has been basically, as I mentioned, it was my bestseller. People are still reading it, so it's like if they can read the review, and if they find it useful, they can
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
it.
Thank you so much actually being on the podcast. I feel like it is quite useful and insightful session we had today, and people will get definitely benefited out of it, and hopefully they will manage to get into this AI and ML space who are willing to. So thank you so much once again for providing your time and being a guest on the Solid Saturday podcast. I really appreciate your consideration for coming.
Yeah, Vaishali, it's like it was it's like opportunity for me as well. It's like I like to interact with newcomers and it's like like-minded professionals. It was a good discussion with you. It's like thanks for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, it's
So
all
I
my
hope
pleasure
yeah people
actually.
will get.
Yeah, it's all my pleasure. So what I'm gonna do is, like, I'll make this podcast available by today itself, and I will tag you, and the people who would like to connect directly with you, they will connect directly to you, so that they will get more guidance from you, and maybe they will connect with you to get your books as well. So
Okay, great.
yeah, so I will do that. And hello everyone, so hope you enjoyed this, you will also enjoy this episode, and I'll make it available soon. So until we meet, happy leading. Let's lead together. Bye for now.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thank you,
Bye.
Shali. Yeah.